The $800 million De-Icer lie. Why you only need $1 to clear your car windshield. The winter trap and an $847 million industry. Every winter morning begins the same way for millions of drivers. The alarm goes off at 5 in the morning, and you step outside into the bitter cold. Your fingers go numb within seconds as you face your car, completely covered in a thick layer of ice. The windshield looks like it has been sealed shut by nature itself, and you know the struggle is about to begin. You reach for the products you bought with hope. The Preston De-Icer can that cost you $6 is already half empty, and you have only used it 4 times. You spray it generously, but the ice barely budges. Then you grab the $15 heated scraper you saw advertised online. It promised to make your life easier, but in 5-degree weather, it feels like just another useless tool. You scrape and scrape, your arms aching, your patience wearing thin, and you wonder why nothing ever works the way it should. This is not just your story. This is the reality for countless people every single winter. But what most people do not realize is that this struggle is part of a much bigger picture. In 2023 alone, the de-icing product industry in America generated $847 million in revenue. That is nearly $1 billion spent on sprays, scrapers, covers, and gadgets that barely solve the problem. The market thrives on our desperation, selling us solutions that run out quickly, break easily, or simply fail when we need them most. Then there are the so-called luxury solutions. Remote start systems are marketed as the ultimate convenience, allowing you to warm up your car from the comfort of your home. But these systems cost anywhere from $200 to $500 to install, and while they do melt the ice eventually, they waste fuel and pump harmful emissions into the air for 10 to 15 minutes every single morning. The environmental cost is real, but it is rarely mentioned in the advertisements. So the question becomes unavoidable. Is spending all this money really necessary? Are we solving the problem, or are we just feeding an industry that profits from our frustration? Have we been kept in the dark about simpler, cheaper, and more effective solutions? The truth is, we have been told that winter car care is expensive and complicated, but what if it does not have to be? What if the answer has been hiding in plain sight all along, and the industry just does not want us to know? Dr. Margaret Hollis in the 1938 Forbidden Formula. The year was 1938, and the place was Fairbanks, Alaska. This was not just cold. This was the kind of cold that stopped engines, froze fuel lines, and made survival itself a daily challenge. Temperatures regularly dropped to 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, and the people living there had to find ways to adapt or perish. It was in this unforgiving environment that a brilliant mind was at work, searching for answers that no one else seemed to be looking for. Her name was Dr. Margaret Hollis, a chemical engineer who had dedicated her career to understanding how materials behaved in extreme conditions. While most researchers worked in comfortable laboratories, Dr. Hollis chose to be in the field, studying the real-world effects of brutal cold on vehicles, machinery, and infrastructure. She was not interested in theory alone. She wanted practical solutions that could save lives and make survival possible in the harshest climates on Earth. During her research, Dr. Hollis made a discovery that would change everything. She found that isopropyl alcohol had a freezing point of negative 128 degrees Fahrenheit. This was far below any temperature ever recorded in North America. It meant that this simple compound could remain liquid and effective even in the most extreme winter conditions imaginable. The implications were enormous. If isopropyl alcohol could prevent freezing at such low temperatures, it could be the key to solving the ice problem that plagued vehicles, aircraft, and equipment across the coldest regions of the continent. But the discovery did not stay in Alaska for long. When World War II broke out, the stakes became a matter of life and death on a global scale. Airport ground crews faced a critical challenge. Military aircraft needed to take off quickly, but ice on the wings and windshields could delay missions or cause catastrophic failures. Time was everything, and there was no room for error. Dr. Hollis's formula became a secret weapon. Ground crews used it to de-ice planes rapidly and reliably, ensuring that missions could proceed even in freezing conditions. The formula worked flawlessly, and it played a quiet but vital role in the success of countless operations during the war. When the war ended in 1945, the formula was declassified the following year and released into the public domain. For a brief moment, it seemed like this powerful solution would become widely available to everyone. People could finally have access to an affordable and effective way to deal with ice. But that moment did not last. Large corporations quickly realized that a cheap, simple solution was not profitable. They could not sell expensive products if people knew they could make their own de-icer for pennies. So the formula was buried, hidden beneath layers of marketing and patents for inferior products that cost far more and worked far less effectively. The knowledge that could have helped millions was quietly erased from public consciousness, and the cycle of expensive, ineffective solutions continued for decades. The 1947 deception. How the secret was buried. In 1947, just 1 year after Dr. Hollis's formula entered the public domain, a company called Prestone made a move that would shape the winter car care industry for generations. They launched the first commercial de-icer product, packaged in sleek aerosol cans with bold labels and professional branding. The product was marketed as a breakthrough, a scientific innovation that only experts could provide. But the truth was far simpler and far more cynical. The active ingredient in that expensive can was the exact same isopropyl alcohol that Dr. Hollis had discovered years earlier. The same compound that cost pennies per gallon was now being sold in tiny cans for several dollars each. The strategy was brilliant in its deception. Prestone took a readily available, inexpensive chemical and transformed it into a premium product through nothing more than packaging and marketing. The aerosol made it seem modern and convenient. The technical language on the label made it sound advanced and specialized. The price tag made people believe it was worth far more than it actually cost to produce. And it worked. Consumers bought it eagerly, believing they were purchasing cutting-edge technology, when in reality, they were paying a massive markup for something they could have made themselves for almost nothing. But selling an overpriced product was only half the battle. The real challenge for these corporations was making sure that people never discovered the truth. They needed to ensure that the simple, affordable DIY solution stayed hidden from the public eye. And so began a campaign of suppression that was as calculated as it was effective. Advertising dollars flooded into magazines, newspapers, and later television. These ads did not just promote commercial de-icers, they subtly discouraged any mention of homemade alternatives. Hardware stores and auto supply shops were incentivized to stock and promote branded products, rather than educating customers about cheaper options. Articles that might have shared DIY tips were quietly discouraged or never published at all. The message was clear. If you wanted to deal with ice, you had to buy their product. There was no other way. The auto manufacturers played their part as well. They had their own profitable solutions to sell, and they were not about to let a simple chemical formula disrupt their revenue streams. Remote start systems, heated seats, and defrosting packages became standard upsells at dealerships. These features cost hundreds of dollars to install and added significant profit margins. But for these systems to seem necessary, consumers had to believe that there was no simpler alternative. So the industry lobbied against clear fuel efficiency labels and transparent information about environmental costs. They resisted any push for consumer education that might reveal just how much fuel was being wasted or how unnecessary these expensive add-ons really were. The goal was to keep people dependent on costly solutions and unaware of the cheap, effective one that had existed all along. Perhaps the saddest part of this story is the generational knowledge that was lost. Our grandparents and great-grandparents knew these tricks. They lived in an era when people made their own cleaning products, repaired their own tools, and solved problems with ingenuity rather than credit cards. Isopropyl alcohol for de-icing was common knowledge in many households, but as television commercials became more pervasive and consumer culture took hold, that practical wisdom faded. Aerosol cans and flashy advertisements convinced a new generation that solutions had to come from stores, not from their own kitchens. The art of domestic chemistry, the kind of simple problem solving that had once been passed down through families, was gradually forgotten. And with it, the knowledge that could have saved millions of people billions of dollars over the decades disappeared into the background noise of modern marketing. The molecular war, the science, the industry hides. To understand why this solution works so incredibly well, we need to go back to 1887 and the work of a physicist named Joseph Stephan. He developed a mathematical model that explained exactly how ice forms and bonds to surfaces. Stephan's law revealed that when water freezes on glass, it does not just sit there as a solid mass. Instead, it creates intricate crystal structures that lock onto microscopic imperfections in the surface. These crystals form a tight bond that makes the ice incredibly difficult to remove. This is why scraping feels like such hard work. You're not just pushing ice off a smooth surface, you're breaking thousands of tiny molecular connections that have formed between the ice and the glass. But here's where it gets interesting. Between the ice and the glass, there exists what scientists call a boundary layer. This is a thin zone where the ice is not fully solid and the glass is not completely separate. At the molecular level, this boundary layer is actually the weakest point in the entire structure. It is held together by hydrogen bonds, which are strong enough to keep the ice stuck, but vulnerable to the right kind of interference. This is the key to understanding why the simple solution works so effectively. If you can disrupt those hydrogen bonds in the boundary layer, the ice loses its grip entirely. Isopropyl alcohol molecules are smaller than water molecules. This difference in size might seem trivial, but it changes everything. When you apply isopropyl alcohol to ice on a windshield, those tiny molecules do not just sit on top. They use a process called capillary action to penetrate into the microscopic gaps between the ice and the glass. Once they get into that boundary layer, they immediately begin breaking apart the hydrogen bonds that hold the ice in place. The alcohol molecules essentially wedge themselves between the water molecules and the glass surface, severing the connection at the molecular level. The result is remarkable. The ice does not melt in the traditional sense. Instead, it loses its grip on the glass. Within 30 seconds, the entire sheet of ice can be lifted off effortlessly, sometimes with just a light push from your hand. There is no scraping, no gouging, and no risk of scratching your windshield. The bond is simply broken, and the ice slides away. This is not magic. This is basic chemistry applied in the most efficient way possible. And this is not just theoretical science. The Journal of Cold Regions Engineering published research that tested various de-icing methods under controlled conditions. The study compared commercial products, road salt, heated scrapers, and alcohol-based solutions. The results were undeniable. The alcohol-based solution outperformed everything else in both speed and effectiveness. It worked faster than road salt, required less physical effort than scraping, and left no residue or damage behind. The data was clear, peer-reviewed, and publicly available. Yet somehow, this information never made it into mainstream consumer knowledge. The industry had no interest in promoting a solution that would cost them hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue. The forbidden fix formula and your freedom. After all the history, the science, and the corporate manipulation, we finally arrive at the moment you have been waiting for. The actual formula that has been hidden from you for decades. The solution is so simple that you will wonder why you ever spent a single dollar on commercial products. You only need 3 ingredients, and you probably already have 2 of them in your home right now. First, you need isopropyl alcohol. You can find this at any pharmacy or grocery store. A bottle that costs around $7 contains enough alcohol to make gallons of de-icer solution. 1 bottle can last you an entire winter, possibly longer. Second, you need distilled water. A gallon costs about $1.50 at most stores. Distilled water is important because it contains no minerals or impurities that could leave streaks or residue on your windshield. Third, you need just 1 drop of dish soap. This acts as a surfactant, helping the solution spread evenly across the glass and penetrate the ice more effectively. The recipe itself takes 10 seconds to prepare. Mix 2 parts isopropyl alcohol with 1 part distilled water in a spray bottle. Add a single drop of dish soap. Shake the bottle for a few seconds to combine everything thoroughly. That is it. You now have a professional-grade de-icing solution that works better than anything you can buy in a store, and it costs you less than $2 to make enough for the entire season. Using it is even easier. When you walk out to your frozen car in the morning, simply spray the solution generously across your windshield. You do not need to soak it, but make sure you cover the entire iced area. Then wait 30 seconds. That is all the time the alcohol needs to break the molecular bonds between the ice and the glass. After 30 seconds, turn on your wipers or give the ice a light push with your hand. It will slide off effortlessly, leaving a clean, clear windshield behind. No scraping, no gouging, no freezing your fingers off in the cold. But here's the trick that takes this solution to another level. You do not have to wait until the morning to deal with ice. If you know a cold night is coming, spray your windshield with this solution before you go to bed. The alcohol creates a barrier that prevents ice from bonding to the glass in the first place. When you wake up, there will be frost, but it will wipe away with a single swipe. You will never again have to stand outside in the freezing cold, chipping away at stubborn ice while you are already late for work. Now let us talk about what this means for your wallet. The average person spends about $85 per winter on de-icing products, scrapers, and related supplies. Over 30 years, that adds up to $2,550. That is not a small amount of money. That is a vacation. That is a down payment on a car. That is years of savings that you hand over to corporations for a problem you could have solved yourself for less than $2 per year. Imagine what you could do with that money if you kept it instead. This is not just about saving money, though. This is about breaking free from a system that has been designed to keep you dependent and uninformed. For decades, the industry has profited from your frustration and your lack of knowledge. They have hidden the truth, suppressed the science, and convinced you that their expensive products are the only option. But now you know better. You have the formula, you have the science, you have the power to take control of your own winter mornings. So here is the call to action. Make this solution, use it, share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, post it online, talk about it, spread the word. The more people who know about this, the harder it becomes for corporations to continue selling overpriced products that do not work. This is the forbidden vault, the knowledge that was never supposed to reach you, but it has. And now it is yours to keep and to share. Take back your winter. Take back your money. Take back your freedom.